the Executive Director, and Dr. Stephen Gola, Board President.
Vice Chair Hinojosa and Senate Finance Committee members, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to be here with you this afternoon. My name is Brittany Sharkey, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners. The Veterinary Board is charged with protecting the public by ensuring the best and highest of veterinary care for the people and animals of Texas. We currently license over 13,000 individuals across 3 main licensure categories. And we currently receive an average of 600 complaints per year and are on track to inspect over 1,600 licensees this year. The Veterinary Board of today is a very different agency from the one I inherited just 2 years ago. The last time I addressed this panel, the agency was a regulatory body in crisis, but with the best team of the most dedicated public servants, generous appropriations from the legislature, and oversight from the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, the agency is now on the right track. The agency formally launched its new licensing system and database in early August of 2024. After working with teams from both the Department of Information Resources and TDLR, the agency was able to procure, build, and launch a new licensing system within just this last fiscal year. Because of the appropriations we received, we now have a comprehensive modern licensing system that is easy for both licensees and the public to use. We have also expanded our enforcement capabilities significantly. We were able to onboard 6 additional investigators this biennium, more than doubling the size of our enforcement team. That enforcement team conducted 1,630 on-site inspections this past fiscal year, an all-time record for the agency, doubling the previous high set more than 5 years ago. With this cadence, the agency is on track to inspect all licensees at least once every 8 years in accordance with Sunset Advisory Commission best practices and recommendations. The agency recently went through a statutorily required state auditor's office audit. That audit acknowledged significant improvements and progress on issues identified in previous Sunset Advisory Commission reviews. Of 9 outstanding items, the audit found that 4 had been fully implemented, 1 substantially implemented, and the remaining 4 recommendations were ongoing at the time of the audit. However, with the teams within our agency and with TDLR, we have substantially implemented and believe that we have fully implemented all of those recommendations at this time. We are so grateful for the influx of funding received last session. It was instrumental in achieving the agency's current level of success. This session, we have 2 exceptional items that I'd like to tell you a little bit more about. The first is funding for phase 2 of our database system. So our new licensing system went live in August. That licensing system is the foundation on which any other database can be built. It's the mechanism through which all of our licensees interact with the board. Comparatively, less than 5% of our licensees receive complaints against them in a given fiscal year. However, in order to properly track complaints and their resolutions, we need to build out the enforcement and compliance modules of that database. This ensures that the agency is reporting and using accurate data to help us make strategic, data-driven decisions. The initial build-out of this module would cost approximately $300,000 in one-time costs and $100,000 annually for licensing and maintenance. Our second exceptional item request is for targeted staff salary increases to bring all staff to the midpoint of their salary classification range. TBVME is so appreciative of the across-the-board raises our staff received this past biennium, and the positive impact on the staff, turnover, and morale cannot be overstated. However, as a small agency, we simply are unable to compete with salaries offered by larger agencies. We have a great team in place. We've reduced turnover to less than 10% annually. We've got a great mix of experience and institutional knowledge, and we'd like to do what we can to keep folks in their seats. So those targeted staff increases that bring every staff member to the midpoint of their salary range will cost approximately $119,000 per year. This is a new day at the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners. At the board, we are confident in our current administration of the agency, and we are asking for your support for these exceptional item requests to ensure the best protection of the people and animals of Texas. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Presiding Officer Dr. Gola to address our third and final exceptional item.
Vice Chairman Hinojosa, this is Steve Gola, your chairman of the board. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. This is my first full session as chairman, and last session we were attached to TDLR, and I'd like to proudly report that we are doing very well with that attachment. It has been very authentic and effective, and I thank you for the wisdom for doing that. It's been very helpful as we've retooled this agency. I'm here to discuss the agency's third exceptional item request, and that is to increase our executive director's pay cap from $120,000 to roughly $129,000 annually. Progress doesn't occur without leadership, and we've made great progress with Ms. Sharkey as our executive director, and we need to provide the appropriate compensation. She listed some very big wins. The state auditor's office has also found that our market average for similar roles around 128,000. So we think this is in line with what they would indicate, and with that we do ask you for this request. Thank you for having me here today.
I think salaries are a challenge all across all state agencies, staying competitive because of inflation, and of course competing with the private sector to a certain extent. And I'm also very happy, we're happy to see that there's been an increase in on-site inspections. That's a big issue that came up. But Senator Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I was on Sunset when the year the kind of the wheels came off the track, and it was a rough time for the agency. And y'all, we made, I think you had a whole new board, put you over with TDLR, lining things out. So things seem to be settling out pretty good. Now, are you still connected to TDLR, or is that tie severed yet?
So thank you for that question, Senator Nichols. So we are still administratively attached to TDLR until the end of the fiscal year in 2027.
Okay. But it sounds like everything's kind of really settling out, and you need a few things. So I had complaint resolution, which was one of the issues. About how long was it taking, and how long is it taking now?
So we were there, those numbers were significantly higher. So we are still working on clearing out a backlog of cases. That number is trending down slightly, but we are still, it's about a year and a half.
So we still are, and how much backlog do we have?
So we are working on rectifying that. One of the longer outstanding issues with some of our cases that had been pending at the State Office of Administrative Hearings for a long time because we didn't have adequate staff to try those cases. So we've got a couple of outliers that are really dragging that number upwards, but any cases that have been recently filed are being resolved much sooner than that, and closer to between 6 months to a year.
6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. Okay. The $300,000 for a database, something in software. Mm-hmm. But then you've got the licensing and maintenance of $100,000 a year?
Yes. So we launched our licensing system in August of this year. So this request is to build out the enforcement and compliance modules of that database system. So it's really an add-on to the existing system to help us track our enforcement and compliance cases.
And then the big system needs $100,000 a year?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There are no more questions. Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have the State Office of Administrative Hearings. I'll be presentation on budget. Kelsey Sims.